Bom, vamos começar. Bom dia a todos. É um
Well,
prazer
good
estar com
morning,
vocês
everyone, and
novamente. Esse é
welcome
o podcast de
to the
resultados referentes ao
webcast
segundo
for the
trimestre de
Q2 of
2025 do MEC.
2025
Me chamo Márcio
results.
Pena, sou
I'm
diretor de
Marcio
Relações com
Pena.
Investidores
I am
e
the
Governança
company's
Corporativa da
investor
companhia.
relations and
Esse
corporate
call está
governance
sendo gravado.
officer, and join me today here.
Posteriormente, vamos
Well,
colocá-lo
this call
no
will
nosso
be
site de Relações com
recorded and
Investidores
this will
e
be
também
posted in
temos tradução
our
simultânea
site,
que
and we
pode ser
also have
acessada com o
simultaneous
link de interpretação na tela,
interpretation
na parte de baixo
that
da tela.
can be
Comigo hoje aqui temos o Gabriel
accessed
Loures, CEO da
through
companhia,
the bottom
e
part.
o Jael Salmão,
Today we
que é
have
fundador e
Gabriel Loures,
presidente do
CEO and
Conselho de
officer
Administração
of the
da
growth, and
companhia.
Israel Salman,
Tá?
founder
Vou
and
passar a palavra
chairman
para o
of the
Gabriel
board
para a
of
gente começar nossa
directors. Gabriel
apresentação e comentários iniciais.
will initiate with the
Bom
initial
dia, bom dia
comments.
a
Well, good
todos. É
morning
um
to
prazer estar aqui
everyone. It's a
hoje.
great pleasure to
Acho
be
que
here
como
with
vocês
you. I
viram, né, o nosso
believe that,
trimestre foi um
as you
resultado
have
muito
seen,
forte,
we had a very good
tanto operacionalmente
result,
quanto na estratégia Bitcoin.
operational speaking,
E a
and
gente
in the
vai hoje
Bitcoin
comentar um pouco
strategy.
sobre esses resultados.
And today
Pode
we
passar
will
uma página, por
elaborate on the
favor?
results. Let's go to the next
E
page.
começando, né, a gente
And
sempre
when we
divulga, né,
start,
para o
we
mercado que o nosso
always
principal
announce to the
objetivo desde o
market
início
that
da
our
nova
main
estratégia
target
é a
since the
geração de
beginning of
Bitcoin
the new
Yield. Então não
strategy
podia
is
deixar
the
de começar essa
generation
apresentação de
of
forma diferente.
Bitcoin
A gente
yield.
conseguiu
So this
atingir
we were
no segundo
able
trimestre de
to reach
25 versus o
during
primeiro trimestre, um
Q2
Bitcoin Yield de
of
908%.
2025,
Resultado super relevante. E isso
908%.
vem
This is
fruto de
extremely
duas grandes
relevant.
partes, né, de
This is a
duas grandes
result of
blocos.
two
O primeiro
major
resultado
blocks.
operacional,
Number one
a
would be
gente
the
atingiu
operating
75 milhões
result.
de EBITDA
We reached
contábeis nos
75
últimos 12
million
meses,
EBITDA
com
during
12
the
milhões de
last 12
EBITDA
months and
no
12
trimestre de
million
25, e nosso
EBITDAs
resultado, né, o
during
nosso lucro
Q2 of
líquido foi muito
2025, and
forte.
our
E
net
esse resultado operacional
income
permite
was
diversificar
strong.
esse
The
caixa utilizado na
operational
compra de
operational
Bitcoin e geração de
results
Bitcoin Yield. A
allows us to
segunda
have
grande
cash
parte
to buy
foi a
Bitcoin. The
realização do nosso
second
follow-on. A
part
gente captou
was our
180 milhões de
follow-on.
reais no
We
follow-on que a gente
captured
realizou nesse
180
trimestre,
million
muito bem
reais in our
sucedido e uma
follow-on,
operação
very
bem inovadora no
successful.
mercado
This was an
brasileiro. Pela primeira
innovative
vez, uma empresa
operation in the
fez uma,
Brazilian
uma
market for the
captação com uma
first time,
quantidade de
an
warrants, né, e opções que a
enterprise
gente colocou no mercado,
funded with
que
different
superou a
options in
aceitação.
the
Eu acho que isso
market. It was
prova a nossa
highly
capacidade aqui
accepted,
de
and this
criar
proves the
instrumentos
ability of
financeiros
creating
e acessar
financial
mercados
tools
capitais de forma
and to
atrativa para os
access
nossos
the
acionistas, né? Ou
credible
seja, de
market in
forma
a
que a gente
credible
entregue
way for our
mais Bitcoin
shareholders.
por coração
Therefore,
a
we
cada
can
captação.
deliver
Então, a soma
more
desses dois
Bitcoin
resultados
per
aqui
share in each
geraram esse
funding.
Bitcoin Yield de
So
908%,
we had a
que
Bitcoin
prova
yield
que
of
esse primeiro mês completo, né, esse primeiro
908%, and
trimestre
this shows
completo da
that
nossa
the
operação
first
foi
complete
muito bem
quarter of our
sucedido.
operation was
Pode passar uma, por
extremely
favor? A
successful.
gente vai dividir essa apresentação em
Now
duas grandes
we
partes.
will break out the
Eu vou
presentation in
começar
two parts.
falando
I
sobre os
will
resultados
start talking
financeiros
about
operacionais da
the
companhia,
financial and
os
operating
fatores que
results,
compuseram, né,
the
o nosso EBITDA, o
factors
nosso
that
lucro
were
líquido,
part of our
e o
EBITDA
Israel, que
net
vai
income,
assumir a
and
parte do Bitcoin
Israel
Treasury Company,
will
tá?
talk about
Então, vamos
Bitcoin
lá, vamos
Treasury
começar com os
Company.
resultados
So let's
operacionais.
start with the
Como eu falei,
operating
foi o
results.
melhor
As I
segundo
said,
trimestre em
it
histórias
was the
médias. Eu
best
acho que isso foi por uma
second
variedade de
quarter.
fatores.
This
Foi o
was due
trimestre que a
to
gente
a
mais
number
gerou
of
lucro na
factors. This
história
is where
financeira do
we
trimestre
created
médios.
more EBITDA.
Foi o trimestre que a gente mais gerou
It was a
receita,
quarter
mais
where
zerou
we
lucro
had
líquido
more
e também
revenue,
que a gente foi um dos que a gente
more
mais
net
cresceu, né?
revenue, and
Então a gente
when we grew
conseguiu,
most.
de
So
forma
we
muito
were
clara,
able in
seguir
a
os nossos
clear
objetivos
way to
traçados, que é acelerar o
follow our
crescimento de
objectives,
forma
that is
organizada.
speed
A gente
up
bateu no
growth
segundo
in a
trimestre
profitable
97,9
fashion.
milhões de
We
receita
had
líquida no consolidado, um
97.8
crescimento de
million in
12%
net
versus o segundo
revenue
trimestre do ano passado.
consolidation,
E esse
12%
resultado, ele
vis-a-vis
ainda
last year.
é
And
melhor se
this
você olhar
result is
a
even
receita líquida
better
só,
when
que
you
cresceu
see
mais
the
de
shopping
20%,
net
né? A gente
revenue
teve uma
that grew
queda
over
de quase
20%. There
30% no
was a
resultado de
drop of
serviços financeiros, que
30%
é
in
fruto da
financial
renegociação do
service as
acordo
a
comercial com o BV, que a gente
result
divulgou lá no
of
quarto
the
trimestre.
commercial
Mas excluindo
agreement
esse
with
fator, a gente teria
BV.
crescido quase
But
20%. Então
if it
mostra a
wouldn't be
velocidade que o
for
shopping tem
this,
crescido
we would
dentro do
have
nosso
grown
negócio, né? E
20%.
tem
This shows
crescido de
how
forma
much the
rentável. Então,
shopping
nosso
grows,
EBITDA
and it has
consolidado
shown
bateu 12 milhões de
profitable. The
reais no segundo trimestre de
consolidated
25,
EBITDA was 12
revertendo,
million
né,
BRL,
um EBITDA negativo na casa de
reversing a
60 milhões lá no
negative
segundo trimestre de
EBIT on
24.
60
E
million
batemos o lucro líquido
during
de 7,6
Q2
milhões
of
de reais no
2024, and
período.
net income
Na visão dos
7.6
meses, a gente
million.
atingiu
In 12
77,6 milhões de EBITDA,
months, we had
47,9 milhões de
75.6
lucro
million
líquido.
EBITDA,
E é importante ressaltar que esses
47.9
números
million
aqui
in net income.
não
And
incluem
these
o ganho
figures
não
do not
realizado da
include the
valorização dos
non-realized
nossos
gain of the
Bitcoin, né? Ou seja,
appraisal of
esse
our
balanço,
Bitcoin
o
that we
Israel vai
have
mais
in
falar um
our
pouco na frente,
balances.
a gente
Hael
gerou
will
quase 30
elaborate on this,
milhões de
but we
reais de
generated
ganho não
almost
realizado e
30
utilidade não contábeis
million reais of
aqui no Brasil. Pela não
non-realized
íntegra,
gains,
esse
and
resultado do lucro
according
líquido
to to the accounting loss. They are not part of our net income. By and large, our EBITDA margin was 12.3%, and it's important to highlight that this figure increased a significant growth in marketing investment. Our marketing investment went from 7.5% of net revenue consolidated during Q2 of 2024 and went to 14.2% during Q2 of 2025. practically
investimento de marketing, de
5.5
ads, né, como foi
percentage
falado, e
points
que mesmo
of
assim ainda
of
gera margem
marketing
líquida para a empresa.
investment in the
A
controlling
consequência disso foi que a
controllers.
gente cresceu
And then we
no nosso
grew
número de novos compradores,
our new
versus
buyers
2024, bateu mais de
vis-a-vis
33%.
was
E a
plus
gente conseguiu fazer
33%,
isso,
and we were able to
permitindo que
do
o
this.
GMV do shopping
And
Brasil tenha
there
crescido
was a
de
GMV
17%
of the
e um
shopping
aumento do
of
número de compras para
70% and
43
the amount
milhões. Então a
and
gente
the
cresceu a
increase in
nossa
total
base de
account
usuários,
open
né,
Méliuz
quase
43 million.
30% na
Our
comparação.
user
Pode,
base grew
pode passar?
practically 30% when we compare it to the last
Abrindo
year.
pouco mais de detalhe na receita. Pode passar
Now,
agora, por favor,
when we
Gui.
see the
Passando um
revenue,
pouco mais de detalhe na receita,
when
né, eu
we
acho que é
break out
legal
the
essa parte porque
revenue,
ela
it's
mostra um pouco
important
a
to see
evolução
this page
ao
because
longo do
here you can
trimestre,
see
né? A gente
the
saiu de
evolution throughout the
54,6
quarters
milhões de
from
receita no segundo tri e foi
54.5
evoluindo, né, ano por
million,
ano.
and we've
E a gente
evolved
bateu
year
aqui
on
o
year,
crescimento de
and now
12% na
we
receita
have a
líquida consolidada
12%
no
growth of the
segundo tri de 25.
consolidated
Como eu
net
falei,
revenue
o
of
crescimento
Q2
do
of
shopping foi ainda
2025.
maior
The
do
shopping
que os
growth
outros.
was even
Pode falar,
greater,
pode
that
passar.
was around 20%.
Do lado do EBITDA, a gente
Now on
reverteu
the EBITDA,
um
we
prejuízo, né, um EBITDA
reversed a
negativo de
loss, a
117,6 milhões no
negative
trimestre 24,
EBITDA of
e fez parte assim
67.6
bastante
million
impactado
Q2
pelo término de
2024. This
composite,
was
que foi feito naquele período,
impacted
na casa dos
by this
80 milhões de
period that
reais,
was
e
80
bateu
million
no
reais,
segundo
and
trimestre
now
25 12
during
milhões de
Q2 we
reais de
have
positivo, ou
12
seja, uma
million
margem EBITDA de 12,3%.
BRLs and
Como eu
EBITDA
comentei,
margin of
dentro dessa margem EBITDA de
12.3%.
12,3%, a gente tem um
Between the
investimento em marketing de
margin
quase
EBITDA, and we
14%
have a
da receita, ou
14%
seja,
marketing
a nossa
investment of our
lucratividade
revenue. Our
aumentou
profit
significativamente
increased
e a gente tem
significantly,
conseguido
and we
trocar
have been
custos fixos por
able to
investimento de marketing
change
ao longo do último
fixed costs
trimestre.
by
Na
marketing
visão do
costs
primeiro semestre
throughout
como um
the
todo, a gente está com uma
quarter.
margem
When we
EBITDA
see the
de
first
14,4%,
quarter, the EBITDA
14%,
margin was
para um total de
14%, and this is
27,8
a
milhões
total of
de receita.
27.8
Essa
million in
evolução, né, ela foi
consolidated
uma
EBITDA.
evolução
This
muito consistente ao
evolution
longo
was
dos
highly
trimestres, né? Eu
consistent throughout
comentei
the
nos
quarters.
últimos
I
resultados que a gente
mentioned during the
encerrou
last
ali ao final de
periods, we
2024 um
ended
ciclo de turnaround operacional,
2025, we had
e
a
agora o nosso
turnaround
objetivo
period,
é crescer
and
mesmo com
now our target
rentabilidade,
is
né?
to
E esse
grow with
resultado histórico
profitability,
deixa
and this
muito, muito claro
historic
aqui.
result is clear.
Da
We
maneira
can
ajustada, como
see
gráfico
in
da direita,
the
a gente mostrou que esses
adjusted,
resultados têm
consolidated
evolução, né? A gente saiu de
adjusted
38,4
EBITDA,
milhões
we
de
can
EBITDA
see
em 12
from
meses, e
38.4
chegou a
million
64 milhões aqui
to
agora em
64
EBITDA nos últimos
million
12 meses,
during
um
the last
crescimento de
12 months. This is a
66%, saindo
growth
numa
of
margem EBITDA ajustada de
66%
11,3 para
with an
16,3%.
adjusted
Mas essa é a
EBITDA
primeira
margin
vez
of
que esse número ele se
11.3 to
reflete de fato nas nossas DFs,
16.3%. But
dado que
this
a gente
is
teve
reflected for the
fatores
first
não-cash
time
ali
in our DF.
significativos ao
We
longo
had
do ano de
significant
2024, que foram
non-cash
todos
effects
ajustados no
throughout
semestre de 2024.
2024
Pela primeira
that
vez a
were
gente consegue
adjusted,
então
and
nesse
for the
estudo
first
que
time
de fato a
you can
geração de
see
EBITDA
our
se julga
clean
correta em Méliuz,
result,
que é o
and
resultado
this is
contado, que é
correct
de
in
fato de
Méliuz.
75,6
And now
milhões
we have
de reais nos últimos 12 meses, uma margem EBITDA de 19,2%,
75.6%,
uma
an
evolução de
EBITDA margin
178%
of
na despesa de passagem. Então,
19.2%, an
pela primeira
evolution
vez,
of
uma empresa dessa que consegue não só
178%. This
provar
is
esse
the first
resultado
quarter
operacional
where we
objetivo,
can
mas isso se
improve the
reflete também
operational result, but this
diretamente
is also
nas nossas
directly
demonstrações
reflected
financeiras
on our
e na nossa
financial
receita.
statements and our DR.
Isso se mostrou também no lucro líquido,
Now
pode
we
passar, por
saw
favor.
this in net revenue as well, or net
O
income.
lucro líquido consolidado
The
saiu de
consolidated net
60,8 milhões de
income
reais
went
negativo
from
no segundo
60.8
trimestre de 24
negative
para
million
7,6
of Q
milhões
in
e
Q2 of
o last 12 months,
2024
né, ou seja, os últimos 12
to
meses, saiu de menos
7.6
54,7 para
million, and then
47,9, um crescimento de
54.7 to
88%. Esse é um número aqui que
47.9
é o que mais
million. This is
relevante
an
porque ele mostra que a gente vai
88%
conseguir
growth. This
gerar
is
caixa e a
relevant
gente
because we
continua
will
gerando
be able
caixa
to
para
generate cash
comprar mais Bitcoin
to
e
buy
atingir o nosso
more
objetivo, que é
Bitcoin
a
and to
geração de
achieve
Bitcoin.
our target, that is to generate Bitcoin.
Passando um pouco pela um
Now,
detalhamento, né, eu
in
tenho gostado de
details
mostrar aqui nos
here, I
últimos
like
calls de
to
resultado o como que
demonstrate
a
in
nossa
our
estratégia está
calls
evoluindo ao longo do
how our
ano.
strategy
E a
is
gente
evolving
divulgou,
throughout the
né, esses
year,
três
and
grandes
we
pilares
announced
para nossa
these three
estratégia
major
operacional.
pillars, our
O primeiro pilar
operational
é o
strategy.
crescimento do
Number
shopping,
one
e-commerce,
would
nota
be
fiscal. O
growth
segundo pilar é
e-commerce and nota
rentabilização de serviços
fiscal, two
financeiros,
financial
nota parcerias
services
junto com BV. E o
profitability
terceiro
together
é
with
eficiência
BV,
operacional, que é
and
crescer
operational
com rentabilidade.
efficiency to
A
grow
gente
with
mantém esses
profitability. We
objetivos e eu vou
maintain our
abrir e dar um pouco mais
targets,
de
and
exposição
I
cada um
will
deles.
give
Então
you
vamos, por
more
favor,
color and
para a
break
parte
them
do
out.
shopping.
Let's
Pode
go
pular
to
para a próxima
shopping.
página. Isso. Quando a gente olha para o shopping,
When
a
we
gente
see
cresceu
shopping, we've
17% o
grown
nosso GMV,
17% in
15% a
our
nossa receita.
GMV,
Eu acho que foi
15% our
ancorado esse
revenue.
resultado aqui por duas
This
coisas importantes, né?
result
A
was
gente
based on
bateu
two
um
important
take rate de
points. We had a
7,5%,
take rate
que é um
of
take rate legal, uma média
7.1%, that
histórica
is
para o primeiro
better than
trimestre
the
de 20
historic
por ser
average,
um
the
trimestre
first quarter of
excepcional, fora das
2025 was an exceptional quarter, but 7.1% was higher than the historic average. This is the result of our capacity of creating creating new business models and to have better commercial relationships with our partners. I will show you products that we've launched, but it's important to highlight that from the user, we have grown a lot, but from our partners, we have also created new commercial models that allows the take rate to grow throughout time, and we have focused strongly on this. When we think about business development, TGMV, we've grown 17%, but we have to note that our net take rate continues stable. We've increased take rate, revenue GMV without wavering margin. Next point. And this is the product detail that I mentioned during the last quarter. We discussed the array of products and SKU campaigns. This is how our users can gain cash back, can gain more when they buy, and simultaneously these are products that allow us to bring incremental funds and give new results to our partners. Here we want the brands to invest in our channel and online to deliver different cashbacks for products that they want to sell. This could be a launching, this is a product sometimes when they want to change a line, and now we combine the brand and the e-commerce, and this is a way how our users and our customers can win. We are developing other business models. We have three examples throughout Q2. We concluded the launching and the go-to-market of a new market vertical that is Méliuz in store with the excellent results in a recurring fashion. This is Méliuz technology to provide benefits, sales, and campaigns to the brick and mortar point of sales. This is what the insight does in order to create insights in the brick and mortar BV. And here we can have campaigns of performance and funds of performance to the brick and mortar world. We are also developing two major products. One is Méliuz Performance Networks. That is how retail partner networks can provide benefits to our user base. And number two would be the Méliuz survey together with our partners in order to deliver something self-service so that our partners can create qualitative insights with our base. In a very solid way, we work with users that have certain purchase behaviors and we want to understand why. And we are trying to see our market as a business core of e-business. We have marketing and performance funds. And here is how we can bring funds from brands and recurring funds that come from technology or technology. And this has been very successful because we've increased the addressable market in addition to the user base. I wanted to show you an example. Now, this is an example of dozens of cases that we have together with our partner. This is a launching with a partner throughout this quarter. This was a launching of a new product. The partner wanted to experiment this in the point of sale, and how you do it is you have to take people, there's logistic. It's difficult to measure because you cannot understand what is the cost of acquisition of the new customer, how much you're spending, so the person spends and how much it takes for them to come back again. And it's difficult to segment this. There is an experimentation in the POS. Who are going to try it are the people that go to the POS every day. We were able to deliver a campaign that achieved the targets. We had over 3 million people in the target audience. This was a fitness audience focused on the health trend. There was a growth of 6 percentage points in the market share. So this was extremely expensive. And more than that, we were able to measure the repurchase in the following month. These are people that went back and bought it at a full price, and there was a 30% reduction in CAC. This is versus physical sampling. This is an example, but in practice, what we have been able to create with the different brands is a rationale of left-in value of the customer. That is to bring the performance funds, the marketing performance to the brick and mortar world. And this is a way how we've increased our addressable market and giving more value to our partners and our users. This creates new value and there are more possibilities for the users to buy in the physical world. Now let's see our financial services. Now, when we analyze financial services, our accumulated digital accounts opened, it more than doubled year on year. So we have 4.5 million of digital accounts open. These are users that use Méliuz day by day with BV for their picks, for their transactions to invest. And this user base, well, we can penetrate them with our financial services, and one is our card base. We had 261,000 cards on Q2. This has been a modest growth because of credit, and we want this base of user base to be sound. But this is significant of almost 100% when we think about the issued cards year on year. We also launched throughout the second quarter two major products, and we did the go to market. We also have the piggy bank that is a net investment for the users. We ended our investments in CDBs. Now they can have a number of CDBs with different profitabilities together with BV Bank with aggressive and competitive conditions in the market as our insurance product. It is account and card account. It protects Pix credit card with better conditions than the main benchmarks, and these are products that allow you to accumulate points, and there is good retention. Insurance maintains with active insurance for some time. Therefore, we can guarantee that these products will be incremental throughout time, and we are reassured with this accrual of course because of their results. Now, from here on, we have focused to develop products of financial services with BV, but I would like to highlight a product that is purchase and selling of Bitcoin and crypto banks so people can receive their cashback in our platform in Bitcoin. In addition to the obvious synergy with our business and platform and the responsibility of a company that wants Bitcoin to be more disseminated in the Brazilian market. There is a great potential of user acquisition as well as user retention with these features because these are new features that allow us to attract a special public that invests, believes in Bitcoin, and there is great value here. And we believe that this will create future results not only for the Bitcoin strategy to attract more Bitcoins and to grow in Bitcoins. And the third block of operational efficiency, I would like to highlight. This is the most important slide of our presentation. That would be how have we evolved in terms of efficiency and in terms of investment. When we see the fixed expenses of the business since 2023, they are dropping within the fixed expenses. We have our marketing investment that started growing significantly as of Q2 of last year, precisely 1 year ago. This is when we realized that we had that we had a percentage of fixed expenses that was reasonable, and we started to invest more in marketing. When you see this figure from 7% of net revenue to 12% in the last of months. This is a constant growth of our investment so we can grow faster. Now, at the same time, they continued growing and now they're stable. But once again, with marketing investment within these expenses growing, we are changing costs that don't generate a profit, like material, office, and these are investments in marketing that will allow us to grow faster. When we see exclusively Q2 of 2025, we went from 7.5% of our net revenue being invested in marketing to 14.2%. We've grown over 7% our investment over the net revenue, but on on Q2 of 2025, and we went from 7% to 12%. Now we are accelerating growth. Therefore, we have 59% of more active users on the app vis-a-vis Q2 of 2024, and 33% new buyers. Active users show how many users do transactions. And this is interesting because this is the second result of the growth, as we have high retention, shows how the purchasers will behave throughout time, and it demonstrates how we're acquiring these new groups. We're growing in numbers, and in 2024 we were the third app that grew most in Brazil after Temu and Mercado Libre. With a high growth base, we're growing 33% above. And the result will be seen not only in the shopping result this quarter, but also in the results throughout the upcoming quarters and years, because the retention of our users is higher, with great retention. Now, we always like to show we started with a net revenue of 313 million to a revenue of practically 400 million. This is a growth of 15% year on year, and an EBITDA last of month of 34.8 million to 64 million. During Q2 of 2024, the adjusted EBITDA margin was minus 27% in 2023, 11% Q2 2024, and 16% on Q2 of 2025. And to end our business, I have to talk about our cash flow evolution, and we had a sound cash position. Our cash is 71.4 million of cash equivalent. At the end of the quarter, in addition, we have 374 million in Bitcoin portfolio value. If you add up both numbers, we have 446 million in cash, but the Bitcoin portfolio is not part of the balance because of the accounting rules in Brazil. But we do know that it's a net. This is a net value, but we have 374 million in Bitcoin portfolio value. Now, Israel will talk in depth about our Bitcoin strategy. Thank you very much, Gabriel. Thank you to everyone. I believe that it was yesterday, but 5 months have gone by since we took our first steps with Bitcoin in March. Now, when we see that 5 months have gone by, we've seen that we've been able to do a lot in a very short period of time. We had a Bitcoin yield of 908%. The target of the company, our main target, is to increase the number of Bitcoins per share. Our shareholders want to see the amount of Bitcoins that they have indirectly according to each share, and this is what we're doing right now. The number of sats per share as well, where Bitcoins per share, it's 528 Bitcoins per share. In the next charts, I will show you how this has grown. This is for you to see how this has increased, and also Bitcoin portfolio valuation. With the valuation of the asset was around 30 million BRL. Now, this chart shows us the price of our share throughout the year, but it also shows you the traded volume in the exchange and how much this has changed throughout time. The first purchase of Bitcoin was in March, 10% of cash was in March, but in April, we summoned the general meeting to change the strategy of the company so we could become a Bitcoin treasury company to increase the amount of Bitcoins per share. And when we summoned this meeting, we saw two things happening. Number one was the valuation, a strong appreciation of our share, generating more value to our shareholders. Since this day, the appreciation was almost 77%. So if we analyze from the beginning of the year, our share has valuated around 120% throughout 2025. And the traded volume that in the past was very low, around 2, 3, 4 million BRLs a day, this hindered greater investors to create positions and to become shareholders. The average volume that was traded since the day of the meeting, it went from 3 million BRLs to 37 million BRLs per day average. So this shows us how the Bitcoin strategy, as a matter of fact, has put us under the radar of the investors, not only retail investors, but mainly the institutional investors that have helped us to create this follow-on of around 170 million net BRLs that have already been used to buy more Bitcoin. And now we're amongst the 50 the 50 main holders of Bitcoin within public companies, and we are the greatest Bitcoin holders in Latin America when we think about public companies. Now, here I have this chart just to show you that our shareholder that had shares during Q1 of this year, when we acquired 10% of our cash, this same shareholder for each share has 10 times more Bitcoins directly because of our actions using our cash to buy more Bitcoin, to using the business cash generation to buy more Bitcoin, or the issuance or the follow-on of shares that allow us to buy even more and increase significantly the amount of Bitcoins per share for our shareholders. The purchase average price is around $103,000. But as we always say, we do not have an alpha price for our asset. Our horizon, our investment horizon is for always. We don't intend to sell the assets. We want to use it from cash. We want to use from the market to issue follow-ons in order to buy more. So here we have the average price so you can see the appreciation, but we want to maintain this asset within our balance in one. We want to increase the amount of Bitcoins that we have. The beginning of a strategy of a Bitcoin treasury company. We've done a lot, but I could say that what we've done mainly since we started is in the backstage. You still cannot see it. We've done a lot to create structures that can help us to create new types of issuers, to be more nimble, to bring capital from new investors. There's a lot of red tape that we focused on in the first 5 months, and we feel even more prepared. one of these red tapes would be listing in the United States. We submitted our paperwork to have a listed ADR in the US to so that our shares are more liquid to achieve the American market and to bring interested investors. This takes some time. There was a timeline in a recent material fact our expectation to become public abroad. This takes time, but once it's concluded, we will be able to harvest good results. Just an example, we have other initiatives that we are undergoing, and we are reassured because as we deliver these initiatives, we will be able to become a Bitcoin treasury company that is more nimble and more efficient. Now we have this slide so we can break out the valuation of the market cap of the company. This is the date here is August 5. It was around 608 million reais, while the company during the same day had 71 million BRLs in cash and MV, a number of uh, Bitcoin and cash 374.3 million, right? If we exclude this from cash and Bitcoin, well, the company has an enterprise adjusted value of 166 million BRLs. If we consider that the EBIT of the last 12 months of 75.6 million BRLs and EBITDA, EV EBITDA multiple, the market values as 2.2 times the EBITDA of the last 12 months of the company. I'm showing you this just to underscore two things: that the company is well managed by Gabriel, and the company and Gabriel have a target that is to increase users, to increase financial services, shopping, and at the end of the line, generating more cash. And we want this cash to be used so we can carry out more movements as a Bitcoin treasury company. We already have a relevant position. We are the greatest Bitcoin holder in Latin America, and we expect Bitcoin to continue valuating. We believe that this is the best asset that we could have in our treasury. But this is not enough for us. We are always looking for new ways of increasing the amount of Bitcoins that we have per share for our shareholders. What we recently did was a follow on. We're always seeing new ways of being agile and being aggressive so that we can increase the number of Bitcoins that we hold. So our market value is made up from a business managed by Gabriel and our treasury, and how efficient we are bringing in more Bitcoins to our balance and the appreciation of the Bitcoin throughout time. So now this is just an invitation for all of you. We will have our Q&A session that will take place throughout this link. It is more focused on the Méliuz operation. And Marcio, Gabriel, I can also answer questions, but afterwards we will go to X and we will continue with this talk. The link, which was announced a couple of minutes ago, so we will have three guests that understand a lot about Bitcoin and the thesis of Bitcoin treasury companies, and we will have an open conversation about the side of the company. We wait for you. So Marcio can conduct our Q&A session, and I'm at your disposal.
Obrigado, Israel. Obrigado,
Thank you,
Gabriel. É isso aí.
Israel, Gabriel.
Fique à vontade para
Exactly. Well,
participar de um
we invite
bate-papo,
all of
nosso
you
primeiro
to
bate-papo com convidados,
participate
né,
in
via
our
X,
first
via
talks
o ex-Twitter.
with
O
guests
link ele
through
já foi
X.
enviado em forma
The
de comunicado ao
link
mercado,
has
no nosso
already been
mailing também, e
communicated
está
to
no
the
nosso
market
site.
through
Está
mailing, and
no
you can
pop-up
find
lá
it
do
in our
usuário, quando
site.
abre o site TR da
There
companhia,
is a
tem um
pop-up
pop-up
in our
que
site.
leva para o link que vai ser
And
esse
in the
bate-papo,
pop up,
tá? Acho que
you
vai
will
ser algo bem
see the
legal,
link.
porque é o
I
nosso
think
primeiro
this will be a nice
a partir do
conversation, a
mês de
short
julho.
conversation
Bom,
as
vamos às
of
nossas
noon
perguntas e
today.
respostas. Vou
So
iniciar
let's
nosso
go to our
Q&A.
Q&A
Para fazer
session today.
pergunta,
In order
basta
to pose
levantar a mão
questions, just
aqui
raise your
na
hand
plataforma Zoom
here through the
e
Zoom
e
platform,
eu passo a palavra. Então, por
and
favor, quem
I
quiser
will
fazer
give you
pergunta
the floor.
pode ficar à vontade de
So
levantar a mão.
if you wish to pose a question, just raise your hand.
Temos uma primeira
We
pergunta
have a
aqui
first
do
question
Ricardo.
here from
Ricardo,
Ricardo.
analista do
Ricardo,
BTG
he's an
Pactual.
analyst of
Ricardo, já
BTG
abriu seu
Pactual.
microfone. Fica à vontade, por favor, para
Open.
fazer sua pergunta.
Okay, you can
Bom
pose a
dia,
question.
pessoal, e obrigado aqui pela oportunidade de fazer
Thank you
perguntas.
for the
Eu tenho duas aqui do meu
opportunity of
lado.
posing
Esse trimestre
questions.
vocês geraram 10
Well,
milhões de
this
EBITDA sem
quarter you
excluir os
generated
impostos,
10
né?
million
E
of
se
EBITDA
converteu numa
without
geração de caixa
excluding
operacional
taxes
de uns
that
3 ou
became
4 milhões de reais também,
an
se excluindo
operating
o resultado
cash 3,
financeiro.
4 million
Seria
reais.
interessante
So
se vocês
wouldn't it be
comentarem um
interesting if
pouco
you could
quais linhas
elaborate
estão impactando
on
essa
which
conversão de caixa,
lines are
quais
impacting this
sentidos devemos
cash
esperar para
conversion?
os próximos
What can we
trimestres dela?
expect
E na minha segunda pergunta, né, vocês comentaram
during the
bastante de alguns
next
investimentos de
quarters? And
marketing que vocês estão
two, you
vendo
spoke about marketing
que pode trazer
investments. You
mais
said
oportunidade de
that can
crescimento.
provide more
Pensando
growth
nisso, faz
opportunities.
sentido a
Now,
gente
thinking
esperar
about
o
this,
GMV da
does it make
companhia
sense to
acelerando um
wait
pouco o
for the
crescimento já no segundo
GMV of the
semestre?
company
E quando vocês esperam
accelerating
que
the
deve ter
growth of the
um
company?
retorno desses investimentos de marketing? Obrigado.
When do you expect to see the
Perfeito,
return
Ricardo.
on your
Ricardo, então, se
marketing
nós vamos
investment?
aqui
Thank
abordar
you,
os pontos
Ricardo,
correlativos,
for
mas
your
começando pela segunda,
questions.
tá?
I
Que é
will
o
start by
crescimento do
your
GMV.
second
Assim
question, that is the
como
growth of
sabem, né, a gente
GMV.
divulga a
As you
nossa
know, we
safra de usuários,
always
ela tem uma
announce the
retenção
number
muito
of
boa. Então a
users
gente
with
vai, o
good
nosso business ele é
retention. Our
praticado em construir
business
novas safras
is based
e
on
essas safras ali
creating
dentro do
new
e-commerce serem retidas
numbers of
ao longo do
users in
tempo. Então,
e-commerce, and it
a
has
gente
to be
obviamente não dá
retained throughout
guides
time.
para falar
We
quanto vai
do
ser
not
o
provide
GMV, né, nos
guidance to
próximos
tell you
trimestres,
what the
mas
GMV
fazer o
of the
proxy
upcoming
é
quarters
olhar
will
um
be. A
pouco
good
das últimas
proxy would
retenções que a gente
be to
divulgou,
see the
qual
past
a retenção
retentions
das
that
nossas
we allowed.
unidades e
What is
avaliar
the
esse
cohort
crescimento, porque ele foi um
retention
crescimento
like? And with
acima,
the
né, de novos compradores, ou seja, novos
33%
usuários que entraram,
of new
incrementaram ali nas safras,
users and the
que é o comportamento
increase of
esperado. A gente
users,
tem
and to
visto
see the
essa
expected
ativação, né, de novos cadastros
behavior.
ao longo do
We've
tempo,
seen the
trazendo novos
activation of
compradores.
new
A gente tem
registries,
visto
attracting
esses novos
new
compradores
buyers.
retendo na
These
nossa plataforma de
new
forma bastante
purchasers
efetiva, né, melhor.
remain
E
in
o que
our
eu posso te dizer
platform.
do
And
nosso
what can
investimento em
I
marketing, que a
say
gente aumentou
in
bastante, como eu
terms of
comentei,
marketing
mas a gente
investments?
sempre
Well, it
acompanha muito de
has
perto todo o
increased, but
payback,
we
quanto ROI desses
closely
investimentos
follow up
e garante
the
que eles estão dentro do
ROI
nosso
and
retorno preferido,
payback,
né? Então,
and
eles
they are
não
within
reduziram a
the
nossa expectativa de
expected
retorno a cada real
return.
investido.
This
A gente está
did
conseguindo
not,
investir
we did
mais
not
com o
drop
mesmo
the
retorno por 3 meses, ou
return
seja, mantendo
expected.
aquele
So we
nosso
are
payback de curto prazo, o
maintaining the
retorno de curto
short
prazo.
term
Então,
paying
a
back and the
expectativa é sim que,
return in the
obviamente, esses
short
usuários que estão
term.
entrando, eles
Now,
gerem
the
resultados no
users
shopping e também nas
will
outras linhas de negócio, nas linhas
generate
financeiras, os
shoppings
novos
and
produtos
other
personalizados,
lines,
o
new
próprio marketplace,
products,
ao
financial
longo dos próximos
services,
trimestres, tá? A gente não pode
invoices.
dar um número cravado.
I can't give you a
Sobre
figure.
a
Now,
pergunta, né, de conversão de
regarding
caixa,
cash
obviamente você tem
conversion. Now,
os itens ali
obviously,
abaixo do EBITDA,
we
então a
have
depreciação, se você for
items,
olhar, é bastante controlado no nosso modelo.
depreciation
Temos
is highly
impostos,
controlled. We have
e também não tem
taxes,
nenhum item
and
extraordinário muito
there is
significativo ali que impacta
no
dentro na
significant
conversão do
point
EBITDA
that
para
can
lucro líquido. Então, o
impact
nosso foco aqui
the
é
net
garantir que a gente está
conversion
gerando
to
cada vez
net
mais EBITDA
profit.
em
We want to
métricas, né, em linhas
generate
que
more
impactam o caixa, ou seja, não
more
só impactos contábeis.
more
Tanto é que se você for
EBITDA in
olhar o
cash in
nosso
lines.
EBITDA
If you
ajustado
see our adjusted
dos últimos
EBITDA
12 meses, ele é menor do que
of
o
the
EBITDA contábil,
last
né?
12
Porque
months is
a
lower than
gente
the
ajustou
accounting
para baixo o
EBITDA
EBITDA por causa do
because
impacto do
we
não caixa ali no quarto
adjusted
trimestre de
downward
2024
because there
da
was a
reversão
non-cash impact
do
in
real, de moedas controladas
2024
nossas.
because
Então,
it
a gente
was
tem poucos
a
ajustes ali no EBITDA, poucos
reversion
números ali do
of a
EBITDA que
earnout.
mudam essa conversão para o caixa, tá?
So
Então, a
there are
expectativa
things that
aqui é
change the
crescer o EBITDA cada vez
conversion. We
mais e,
want to grow
consequentemente,
more
crescer
in
também a geração de
EBITDA
caixa
and to
para
grow
aquisição
cash
do
generation
Bitcoin.
for the
Como a gente
acquisition of
divulgou, né, quando a
Bitcoin,
gente
as
começou
we
esse
announced
estratégia, a gente
when
tem um
we
caixa
started
mínimo.
our
Esse caixa mínimo
strategy, we had a minimum cash that will be respected so that the business continues with a minimum cash to invest, to grow, and to guarantee the sustainability of the business in the long term. But the cash generation based on the minimum cash, we will buy Bitcoin, so we will probably
Obrigado pela
purchase more
resposta. Só um
Bitcoins in
follow-up.
brief.
Pensando
Now, thinking
nessa conversão de
about
EBITDA para o
the
caixa, né?
EBITDA
Eu entendo que
conversion in
tem
EBITDA,
alguns efeitos ligados
I
com
know that there are
CAPEX
effects that are
intangível, né?
connected
Então,
to
algumas despesas vocês
intangible
capitalizam, você
capex,
tem
some
questão
expenses
da
you
variação de capital de
capitalize,
giro.
you have
Faz
variation of
sentido de
working
pensar nos
capital. Does
patamares
it
que a gente
make
viu no
sense
segundo
to think
trimestre
about
como
the
uma boa proxy
levels
do que esperar para frente, no
of
quesito
Q2 as a good
desse
proxy in
CAPEX intangível
terms of
e capital de
what
giro?
to expect?
Perfeito. Existe capital de giro que
Well,
vai
there is
variando
a
bastante.
working
Se você
capital
pegar ali
that
nossas contas
varies a
do
lot.
balanço,
If we
contas a receber,
see
contas a
the
pagar, você vai
accounts
ver que isso
receivable,
varia aí ao
accounts
longo dos
payable, and
trimestres.
accounts in the
O
balance, this
tenderia é levar ele
varies
um pouquinho
throughout the
maior para
quarter.
você ter
We
uma
would have to
comparação ali que mais
analyze a longer
reflete, ou seja, que
period
tem
to see a
variações no balanço que são
comparison
mais ou
that
menos
shows
estáveis, tá?
variation in the
Dito isso, não teve
balance
nenhum
that are
efeito
stable.
nesse
Here,
trimestre
we've seen no
que
effect during
prejudicou
this
diferente do que vai
quarter
acontecer no outro, mas
that
obviamente esse ciclo de caixa vai variar dependendo ali,
affects
né, de pagamentos
other
para os nossos
quarter, but
fornecedores e de
this will
recebimentos dos
depend
nossos
on
clientes.
the payment of our suppliers and
Tá claro, obrigado.
what we receive from our customers.
Boa, obrigado, Ricardo.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Temos uma nova pergunta
We
aqui
have a new
do Andrew,
question here from Andrew,
analista do Morgan.
a
Andrew,
Morgan
seu microfone
Stanley
está aberto. Por favor, pode fazer sua
analyst.
pergunta.
Andrew, you can pose your question.
Hi, thanks very much for the question and all the color on the call. Maybe one on the operations, then one on the Bitcoin strategy. Just on take rates, I know that 1Q was a historical high for the company, but what was different about 1Q and what's evolved into 2Q? Just trying to understand kind of the more normalized rate for take rates going forward. And then second, on the Bitcoin strategy, I'm curious if you can elaborate a bit more what you can do with the Bitcoin, meaning I know you're trying to increase the number of Bitcoin per share, but other than this holding value, how can you treat Bitcoin as an asset, leverage in other ways? Curious your color there. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrew. I will
Uh,
answer in Portuguese.
I'm going.
Eu vou responder a primeira
I'm
pergunta
going
aqui,
to
que
answer
é
the
a
first
pergunta
question.
da
That is the
operação.
question regarding the
Olhando para o take
operation.
rate do primeiro trimestre,
When
ele
we
foi maior, ele
see
foi acima de
Q1 take
8%,
rate,
que
it was
inclusive
above
foi o máximo
8%,
histórico
and it
nosso,
was the
que foi um
maximum
efeito
that we
sazonais de
achieved.
vendas
These
de
were
campanhas que a gente fez com
seasonable effects
parceiros,
of campaigns
campanhas
that we held
objetivas,
with
que
partners.
depois
These were
puderam reduzir
aggressive
o volume,
campaigns
gerando
where
um
we
volume de
were
vendas
able
bastante
to
significativo,
generate
né?
a significant
Obviamente, o
sales
nosso trabalho
volume.
aqui é para
Now
que a gente
our
tenha
work here
essas
is to
campanhas, né,
guarantee
alta
campaigns,
frequência, campanhas fora do padrão,
frequently that are
mas acho que esse foi o
out
principal
of the
impacto aqui. A gente
standard,
não
but
espera que
this
ele se
was the
repita nos próximos
first
trimestres,
impact. We don't
mas como
expect
eu
to see
comentei, né, a
this
gente tem
every quarter. As
trabalhado
I mentioned,
para criar
we have
novos modelos de
focused to
negócio que
create new
permitam essas
business
campanhas.
models
Então,
that
o
allow us to
impacto do
have
primeiro
these
trimestre
campaigns.
aqui foi um
The
impacto de
impact of
campanhas
Q1 was a
em
campaign
que
impact
marcas conseguiram investir
where brands
diretamente em
could
seus produtos
directly
dentro dos nossos
invest in their
canais,
products
em
within our
budgets compartilhados
channels,
com os
in budgets
e-commerce
that were
parceiros, né?
shared
Então,
with our
na
partner
prática, a gente conseguiu
e-commerces.
trazer um
In
modelo de
practice,
negócio
since
diferente
we
que
were
gerou um
able to
resultado
have a
bastante
different
positivo e é
business
nosso
model
objetivo
with a
continuar
significant
mantendo
result, and
esses
we want to
resultados daqui para
maintain
frente.
these results
Obviamente, não
from
nos
here on,
patamares pisados
not
ali do
at
primeiro tri,
the
são resultados
levels
positivos
of Q1
pelo
that were
tamanho dessas
atypical
campanhas,
because
mas
of
a
the
gente
size
espera
of
que o
the
nosso take
campaigns,
rate
but we expect our
mantenha
take rate
acima dos 7
to
7%
be above
consiga entregar um resultado
7% and
bastante
to be
significativo
able to
nos próximos
deliver
trimestres, similar ao que foi agora.
significant
Vou deixar a
results
próxima
in the
pergunta para
upcoming
o Israel
quarters. Now,
sobre
Israel will
o
answer
Bitcoin, o
the
que mais que a gente pode
question
fazer
regarding
com a reserva
Bitcoin and
dele.
what else can we do with our
Andrew,
reserves.
obrigado pela pergunta.
Andrew, thank you very much for
Nesse
your
momento, né,
question.
a nossa
Currently,
estratégia é
our
apenas comprar
strategy
e acumular
is to
esses
purchase and
bitcoins. Isso ali
accumulate and to
guardar de
maintain the
forma segura
Bitcoin within
nos
our
melhores fundos do
treasury
balanço.
and to maintain it in a safe way.
Aqui de custódia, seguindo custódia
Follow
menores
with
que os ETFs e
following
tudo.
the
Então, nosso interesse não
custody
é
movements of the
utilizar esse
ETFs.
Bitcoin
We do not
para
want to
nos
use this
alavancar, para
Bitcoin
colocar esse
to
Bitcoin
create
em qualquer
leverage, to
empréstimo,
use it
qualquer tipo de operação do
as
gênero. O objetivo, de
as
fato, é acumular,
guarantee.
tá? E
We
colocar
just
cada vez
want
mais
to
Bitcoin aqui na
accumulate
tesouraria,
Bitcoin and have
mas
more
fazer isso
Bitcoins in a treasury,
de forma
but to
atrativa para o
do
acionista. Então,
it in
se
an
eventualmente
attractive
formos
way
fazer
for the
um follow-on
shareholders.
ou
If
algum
we
exercício
carry
desse,
out a
tem que ser
follow as we did
a um
recently,
determinado nível de preço.
it has
Essa
to be
compra
at a
de
certain
Bitcoin Use é
price,
positiva e a gente consegue
and
adicionar
we
mais Bitcoin
always
no
want to have a positive result so
nosso acionista.
that
Então,
we can add
basicamente,
value
é
to
a
our
forma que nós
shareholders.
olhamos para o
This
Bitcoin
is
hoje.
how we see Bitcoin today. Did I answer your question?
Yes, that's very clear. Thank you both.
Obrigado, Andrew, pela pergunta.
Thank
Pessoal,
you,
sem mais
Andrew, for
perguntas
your
por hoje. Eu
question. There are
agradeço
no
a
further
participação de
questions
todos.
today. I
Deixo
thank
aqui
you all for
novamente o
your
convite para participarem
participation.
nosso primeiro
I
bate-papo.
do invite
Temos
you
três
to
convidados aí
participate
que
in our
conhecem
first
muito
talk.
sobre
There are
Bitcoin,
three
acho que vai ser
guests
bem
that
legal.
are
E passo aqui a palavra para o Gabriel,
extremely
ele vai fazer
knowledgeable
suas
on
considerações finais.
Bitcoin. And I will hand it over to Gabriel for his final comments. Thank you
Como eu
very much
comentei,
for
esse foi um
participating
trimestre
in our
muito
call. As
importante
I
para a
mentioned, this
consolidação
has
da
been a
nossa estratégia.
very
Foi o primeiro
important
trimestre
quarter
que a
to
gente
consolidate our
acompanhou
strategy.
do começo ao fim como a
We
Bitcoin Treasury Company. No primeiro trimestre
completed
ainda
this
estávamos
first quarter
nessa
end
direção.
to end as a
Então, acho que é o
Bitcoin
primeiro
treasury
resultado que a gente
company.
consegue de fato
So
entregar um sucesso
this
como a Treasury Company,
is
que foi o
the
vencimento de
first
900%.
result
Isso foi
that we
acompanhado de um impacto
delivered
muito
as a
positivo no nosso business
Bitcoin
operacional.
treasury
Então, a
company.
gente quer continuar
So we
gerando mais
want to
EBITDA, cada vez
continue
gerando mais lucro
generating
líquido e
more
mais caixa
EBITDA, more
para
net
aquisição de
profit,
Bitcoin.
more cash
E
to
os
buy
nossos
Bitcoin,
investimentos,
and
ao
our
longo dos últimos
investments
trimestres,
throughout the last
somada à eficiência
quarters,
operacional que a
together
gente tem
with our
conseguido
operational
alcançar, vai
efficiency,
permitir que esse
will
resultado seja cada
allow
vez mais
this
positivo e a
result
gente
to be
consiga
more
aumentar esse
positive,
Bitcoin Yield
and
cada
we
vez
will
mais.
be
Então,
able
queria
to
agradecer a todos
increase
pela
our
presença
Bitcoin yield. Thank you very
e
much
aguardamos
once again
todos
for participating.
na nossa
And
lá no Twitter, que a gente vai dar oportunidade para
we
outras pessoas também
we
participarem.
expect to see
Obrigado a
you
todos
in our
e a
Twitter
gente encerra
meeting.
aqui o nosso call
Thank you
desse
very
trimestre.
much, and we will bring to an end the conference call of this quarter.